Here's a little, thank you, Chitra. So here's a little brief about it. So today's event is discovering the essence of yoga. And we have Sandeep Kapila to tell us what that means. He will talk us through it. And of course, today is the International Yoga Day. Happy International Yoga Day. And we hope all of you have had a good morning practicing your yoga. So today's session is to deepen your understanding and enrich your practice. And what Sandeep will do is talk to us about the essence of yoga, as he calls it, and as it is rightly pronounced, should be rightly pronounced. Sandeep Kapila is the co-founder and CEO of Swasth Foundation, which is a non-for-profit organization established in 2009 with a vision of health and joy for all. Kind of similar to what we also try to do in Silver Talkies. It's health, joy, and an active life for everyone over 55 plus. Sandeep has completed a Master's of Science in Yoga. He has a law degree and a diploma of associateship in insurance. He is a certified professional coach. He's a somatic experiencing practitioner and a lone scholar at the Harvard School of Public Health. Sandeep is also pursuing his PhD in bioelectronics from IIT Bombay. So welcome here, Sandeep, and thank you so much for being here today to share the essence of yoga with us. For those of you joining us for the first time, here's a little bit about Silver Talkies and what we do. Silver Talkies is a social impact organization for people over the age of 55. And we have multiple verticals through which our aim is healthy aging. Our aim is to active and healthy aging for everyone. We truly believe age is no bar, and we have a community that really lives by it. Many of them are here today, and we do this, we talk about this, create awareness about this, enable this, and empower older adults through our different verticals, which is our community for older adults. We run a club, Silver Talkies Club for older adults, which is in hybrid mode right now and is present across almost 12 cities in India. We also have we also do events and workshops and classes which are open to anyone over 55. And we also have a digital magazine. Beside this, we do multiple things. So we'd welcome anyone who's new to Silver Talkies to come and check us out. We'll share our details in the chat box soon. Before we begin, a quick Zoom etiquette. This is an open event, so we request all of you to put any questions you may have in the chat box, any doubts, any queries while Sandeep is speaking, and we shall take it up depending on Sandeep's talk in the middle of the session or towards the end, both ways. So over to you, Sandeep. Let me unmute, add, yeah, there, put you in spotlight. And please go ahead. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Reshmi, Chitra, and Silver Talkies for this opportunity. So I represent the Swasth Yoga Institute here, and I'm looking forward to talk to you about the essence of yoga. So the way I'll do it is there is a presentation. So I also have a background of being a management consultant. After my graduation from IIT Bombay, I was with McKinsey and Company, so that habit of creating presentations is there and communicating using that. So I follow that. What we'll try and do is, please feel free to ask questions. As I said, you can put it in chat. We'll also create some space in the middle. We'll go slowly through it. So if there are questions in the middle also, I'll take them. Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. So the topic of today's talk is the essence of yoga. I put the A in bracket because that's how we have come to know it as yoga or yoga as we know it. Today we'll try and understand what this word yoga really means. And we'll see by the end that it's both the process and the outcome. So we'll start with a short prayer. You can join me in that. So just sit comfortably. If you're on a chair, let your feet be comfortably on the ground, flat, either with your shoes, but being very comfortable. Your back supported. And if you feel like, you can repeat after me. I'll go line by line. Om Sahana Vavatu.
Om Sahana Vavatu.
Sahanam Bhunaktu.
Sahanam
Sah Viryam Karvavahai.
Sahaviryam Karavavahai.
Tejasvinavadhitamastu.
Tejasvinavaditamastu.
Ma Vidvishavahai.
Ma Vidvishavahai.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And as you feel the vibrations of this mantra, setting the intention that this session nourish us, energize us, and while we may disagree, there may be no hostility. Wishing peace within us, around us, and everywhere. So there's an introduction, a very generous introduction, which Rishmi gave. This is my introduction of who am I. I see myself as a researcher. Researcher is a researcher, just searching something which is already been found, just trying to rediscover it. And someone who is committed to health and joy for all. So whatever I do, we do at Swasth, that's sort of at the center of it. I think equally important as we talk of these topics, it's important to say this, that I'm not a realized soul. I'm just like anybody else, just learning regularly from my experiences. I've had the privilege and opportunity to read some of this and just here to facilitate a conversation. So whatever I share, even in this short time, it's not about that this is it, this is the final word. This is sort of my understanding based on my experience. And similarly, what I always encourage and request all of you to have faith in yourself and your experience over everything else. Because whatever is the theory, whether it's spiritual, non-spiritual, wherever it's coming from the greatest of texts, it has to stand the test of your experience. If it doesn't, then it's not a valid theory, right? So you have to have faith in your experience that it matches that in whatever we say. So for that, it's important that we stay curious, willing to learn to understand, at the same time being honest with yourself. Seeing whatever comes, just see it with an open mind, try and experience it, and be honest with yourself as we go through this journey, even in this short time. So as we start the journey, I always thank the gurus that are there for me. These three have stood there. There are many more that I have looked at different points in time, but these three have been there, and especially for the talk that we are going to talk about today, about the essence of yoga, about the different parts of yoga. So Vivekanandji, Aurobindoji, and Hanumanji, all three are role models for me for this aspect of yoga that we'll share. And of course, more important is the inner guru in each one of us. So I salute and bow down to all of these, the 30 and the 27 that we have on Zoom now. So the 30 gurus to guide us on this path. So the word guru literally comes from two root words, ga and ru, which means something or somebody that takes us from darkness to light. That's the meaning of the word guru. So guru is a very functional word. It has a purpose, which means something that takes us from darkness to light. And that's the inner guru. There is that within us that can take us towards that. So with respects to all of these 30 gurus as of now, let's start. So today what I'll try and explain in terms of essence of yoga is this one statement from Vivekanand ji. Usually, as you will see towards the end, we have a 10-week workshop to do this. I'll try and do that in one session. But this is what he says. He said, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. And this is talking of not any one particular religion, but in general religious thought, which is what he sort of looked at across multiple religions. And still today, the Advaita Ashram Ramakrishna Mission does that. But to me, this statement summarizes everything. It basically says this is all that we need to understand. This first line, the rest is all secondary detail. Pack a little bit of this first sentence, these two sentences today to understand the essence of yoga. So let's start that process. So what is yoga? So first we need to understand this word itself, yoga. So yoga is of course a Sanskrit word which comes from this root of Sanskrit called yuj. Now, in Sanskrit, there is a text which describes each of these words. So the word yuj has three connotations. It has three kinds of meanings. It comes in three forms. Like the first one is yuj samyoge, which means to unite, jodna. Samyoge, coming together. Sanyog is the word that we sometimes use in Hindi also. The other is yuj samadho. So samadho means samadhi, which is to putting together. Some adhi, some means equal, at an equal footing, and adi means the mind. So put together or to integrate, become of equal mind in some ways. Two things when they become equal of mind. And the last usage is yuj samyamne, which is sanyam, to restrain or to be in equilibrium. So these are three sort of origins of the word yoga, right? Which is to integrate, to unite, or to be in equilibrium. At some one level, they look very similar in meaning, but they are also different. In to give an example, so right, the to unite. So we can take an example of say two liquids. So if I take milk and water and mix them, right? That mixture, the way it forms is what is like the first one, to unite. Because after that, it's very hard to separate, right? They become completely interspersed with each other. They become one. So we have milk and water as together. So that's what yoga is. Yoga of milk and water is the first kind of yoga, which is to unite, to become one. That two things which are very different become one. The second one, which is to integrate, is like water and oil. So if we mix the two together, after some time, what happens? We see that there is separate water and separate oil, right? We see two clear layers. Both coexist very peacefully, happily, maintaining their identities. They don't interfere with each other, but they also coexist. They are there. That's a kind of union which is, or an integration, which is very different, where the identity of each is maintained. And the last is sanyam, where there is some way of controlling that separation of the two. So yoga is a process where, or yoga is a condition where at least two, if not more things are coming together, but they can come together in different ways. And that's how the different meanings, and you can also say the philosophies of different yoga actually come into play. And this, in the traditional thought, went to an extent where different schools of philosophy have emphasized on different aspects of yoga. So, like the Vedant school focuses a lot on the first meaning, where they talk of this complete union, where there is complete merger. The Sankhya Yoga philosophy talks a lot more of the second one. Bhagavad Gita talks of all three in different chapters, in different forms. But this gives a full sort of very different view and allows for that subjective interpretation, but more importantly, subjective experience of yoga, of the state of yoga for each individual. And that's why there is not one way of what yoga is. There's not one definition, because that's not how it was originally planned or even defined. We'll see how, for example, even in the context of the yoga that we know, the asana that we do, the body movements that we do, what does this mean? Right? When we are doing our body movements, what does this mean? What is coming together? Right? Why is that called as yoga or yoga? What is coming together? What is getting united or integrated, or is in equilibrium there, or is there is some restraint? And that gives us an insight into how we should do our body practices. So there, when we talk of that system of yoga, what comes together, what gets united is at least our body and mind, if not the soul. Which means what? That when we are doing our body posture, when we are doing a certain movement, our mind should be entirely focused on our body. That our mind and body are coming together. They can come together in either of these ways. They can come together in the way of restraint, where my mind is guiding my body to move in a certain way, to be at a certain place. But my mind is right there with my body. I'm not thinking of something else, but I'm right there. Or it could be in a way that my mind is there and my body is there, and they are being focused at one place. And it can also be in a way that somehow my mind and body have merged and I don't experience anything but just that complete state of union. But in either case, our mind has to be, our awareness, our consciousness has to be with our body, the part that I'm moving. How is that feeling? Only when we do our yoga practices in that way, we are doing yoga. Otherwise, it's some physical practice, which there are many, and we can keep doing those. They have their own advantage. It's not like they are wrong or bad, but they are not as per the essence of yoga. So these three meanings of yoga are the essence. Everything has to flow from this. The rest, as we'll see, also has to flow from these. That it's either of these. And each one of us can actually take a moment and say, okay, which one is connecting more with me? When I particularly look at my body, my mind, my soul. So for an individual practitioner, that's what we are trying to bring together, our body, mind, and soul. That is, if we believe there is a soul. If there is no soul, then at least our body and mind together. We are trying to bring them together. So how would you want your body and mind to be together? Do you want them to become one, united, like Sanyog, like the first one, or do you want them both to coexist, have their role independent, but in very close synchrony, in harmony? Or would you want it with some form of equilibrium, some kind of control there? All three are equally valid interpretations, but being consistent is what gives us the best results. Yeah. Is this largely clear? Because this is the crux of it. The rest will flow once this sort of fits in for everybody. Yeah, that this is the essence of what yoga is. It's some form of union, integration, harmony, alignment. We can use so many English words to sort of try and describe this in a very different way. Complete, whole, right? It's complete, it's whole. All of these again keep extending this concept in different ways. Yeah. So I'm not seeing any questions on chat, so I'm moving ahead. If there anything, feel free to put it there. Otherwise, we'll take a pause later. Now, based on these three interpretations, the other interesting way how the word yoga has been used, and that's again an important aspect of this whole journey, is that it's been defined both as a journey, and a goal. So it's been defined both as a process, as an activity, as a verb, as something to do, but also as a state in which one aspires to be in. And this is very typical of this word because most of the words that we see are either process words or they are state words. Right? In an accounting or finance way, it's like it's a stock concept or it's a flow concept. It's like a balance sheet item or a P&L item. It's something that happens regularly, like a river is flowing, or it's like a dam where the water is standing. But very few things like water we can control. Very few words are used in both ways as a journey, like it's a process, or it's the destination also. And yoga has been used in both ways. So these are some definitions that have come that are there in different texts about the yoga as a process, as a journey. So in Yoga Vashisht, it says that yoga is a subtle trick to quieten the mind. Mana prashamana upaya. In Bhagavad Gita, a definition is yoga karmasu kaushalam. It's a skill of how to act, which we'll see in Karam Yoga. Patanjali Yoga Sutras also say that yoga is a process of involution. So it's defined as some sort of a process. And same text, you will see also defines it as a state, as an end state. Like Bhagavad Gita says, it's then you will attain the state of yoga. It calls it as samadhi. Or Patanjali Yoga Sutra says that it's the state of cessation of the patterns of the mind, modifications of the mind, yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha, or samatvam yoga uchyate. So the definitions of yoga in the same text, like Bhagavad Gita, Patanjali, happens in both ways. That it's a state that I get to, or it's the process. And that has immediate implications on saying who is a yogi. Is yogi somebody who has reached a state, a certain state, or yogi is somebody who is following a certain path? Right. So with this, if somebody is following a certain path, is also a yogi. So it's not about reaching a destination. It's like the journey is the destination. And this very interesting combination that yoga is not just about a place or a state I want to be, or if I'm healthy, if I get rid of this disease, then I have reached a state of yoga, I have become a yogi. But it's about the every moment of life. Am I being this way? Am I following this process? Because only if I follow this process will I reach that end state. Otherwise, I can't reach that end state. So the process, the journey itself becomes a destination. It's how I live every moment of my life becomes the way of yoga. And that's why yoga is often said it's not just this, it's a way of life. It's a philosophy of life because it's about living it every moment. It's both the process and the destination. And as the destination, a lot of times it's defined by different words across different schools of philosophy, like it's called as moksha, as kaivalya, nirvana, jivan mukti, purna. So different words have been used by different philosophers, different schools of philosophy, different even religions, redemption, to describe that same state that we get to by following the process. But yoga is unique in its own way that it also emphasizes that the process is equally important. That I cannot reach that state without following the process that's there, the process of yoga. And this dual nature of yoga is reiterated in modern definitions also. Like Vivekananda defines yoga or yoga as a means of compressing one's evolution into a single life, or a few months, or even a few hours of one's bodily existence. He sees that we are evolving, and this is a very scientific approach to yoga. He sort of tried to bring the science, even in 1890s, bring science and yoga together. With the theory of evolution was there, and he's saying this is our evolution. Yoga is the process that takes our evolution to the next level. And Sri Aurobindo ji also said the same, that yoga is a methodical, conscious effort towards self-development of the potentialities latent in the individual, or what lies latent. And this is again, which we saw in the first statement, each soul is potentially divine. There is potentiality in each one of us. And yoga is the process that brings that up. The modern definitions of the state of yoga comes as the yoga is the union of the jivatma with the paramatma, the one with the universal, each individual soul with the universal soul, individual consciousness with the universal consciousness. That's the state of yoga. For some, yoga is just the mixture of the chit, the union of the chitta with the prana, or the mind with the life force, the mind with the body. So it's bringing things together. In any time something, any two different things which we see as different comes together, that is a state of yoga. We'll momentarily definitely experience yoga then, when we reconcile two sort of seemingly different things. And that becomes this. That experience is the state of yoga. And that process of bringing these disparate things together is the process of yoga. I'll take a quick pause here and see if there are thoughts, comments, people want to type out something, or I think there aren't many comments. You feel more comfortable unmuting and sharing also. Saying how just this is sitting with you, this definition or this way of looking at yoga or yoga as we have known it, that this is, yes, there is body posture, there are asanas, but this is really what this is about. It's about unification, integration of our body, mind, soul, if we believe that it's both the process and the end state. It's the journey and the destination.
If any of you would like to unmute and share something, you can do that. And of course, you can always add anything you wish to in the chat box. Sadeep, perhaps you can continue and stop. Yes, someone's talking. Yes.
Yes, Vishwanath.
I'm from Ramakrishna Mission. Okay.
Oh, yes,
I am from Vidyashala. I studied in the school.
Hmm.
We were always given into a situation where yoga was a situation of getting into sthita prajna.
Yes.
I was searching for that word amongst what you were explaining.
Yes, it is,
Yes.
and it will come towards the end. Sthit Pragya is definitely one of the words. It comes from Bhagavad Gita. Yes.
So so what I did study was right in that way.
Yes, totally. Of course, Ramakrishna Mission, it was right. Yes. And we'll come to a little bit of that description towards the end, and also how we can bring it alive in our life, because that's the most important part. All of this theory aside, if it doesn't help us in our daily life, it's not useful. And that's the one activity today. We have very little time, that I'll suggest towards the end of the session, that we can all try starting tomorrow or today itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that out. Yes, Sthit Pragya is definitely one of the states as well. Okay. Good. So let's continue to understand a little bit more about what this state of Sthit Pragya first is, and what are the processes of yoga. So what is this state of yoga? What does it mean to be in yoga? So this, to me, the state of yoga, the end state of yoga is the being of yoga, being in yoga. That's what at least we express it as. So what is that like? Right? And for this we refer to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So there he defines in the early sutra that being in yoga is to be established in oneself. So he says in the third sutra, tada drushtu swarupe avasthana. Means then the self, swarup, abides in its own nature. Avasthanam, in its own swarup. The drishtu abides in its own nature. And this, very simply, is the way, the origin of the word swasth actually. So the word Sanskrit word swasth comes from two roots, words swa plus tha. Swa, as we know, means self, and stha means to be stable, to be sthit in oneself. So the word swasth really means to be established in oneself, and that is one way of looking at the final state, like sthit pragya, to be sthit in your pragya, in your awareness, in yourself. And so being in yoga, the state of yoga is to be swasth. And we know the word swasth as being healthy, right? We have usually seen the word swasth as being healthy. So it really, being healthy is a natural outcome. That's why swasth became translated as health. But if we are in this state of yoga, if we are stable in ourselves, in who we are, in our true selves, we are not conditioned by what others expect of us. That's how we lose our own self in our daily life, right? We are sometimes a father, sometimes a son, sometimes a child, sometimes a daughter, sometimes a parent, sometimes a teacher, sometimes an employee, sometimes a boss. We play different roles in our daily life. And in that process, we lose our true self. But being in yoga, this state of yoga is really about being our true self in the moment. And the moment we are that way, that we are ourselves, we are in the state of yoga. We don't need any asana, any pranayam, any practice to do that. It's that awareness. Yes, pranayam, asanas, they help us be in that state more often. And that's why we do them. Those are very important processes, and we'll come to that. But the essence, the purpose, finally, is to be our true self, to be stable in our true self. And if we can be that way, then we are being in yoga. Then we are reaching that state of yoga. And that for that, we don't have to wait. It can happen in any moment. And what happens, right, when we are that way, right? So this is an image to me which describes that we are grounded in ourselves, we are rooted in ourselves. And then what happens? Once we are stable in ourselves, then we are truly expressing ourselves. We are being who we are. We live in our full glory. We thrive. We give what we are here to give. To me, trees is a very good example. A tree doesn't think. It's in yoga to me. It doesn't think whether I am an apple tree or a mango tree or a banana tree or a flower tree. It is what it is. It just accepts for what it is. Imagine a banana tree saying, no, I want to be a mango tree. See how much confusion that will be, right? And it can never be. It can only dream of it. But what it does, it just says, this is the seed. I will be who I am. And naturally, just by being itself, it will eventually grow into a tree. It will provide shade to people. It will provide a place for nesting of the birds. It will flower. It will give its fruits, which people will enjoy. It doesn't bother whether I have to do that or not. It happens because it's just being itself in every moment. And that is the state of yoga. That is being swasth, being established in oneself. That is the essence. That's why we do whatever we do in the yoga processes, to be ourselves. And that's the essence. If nothing else, we can take away and say, whatever we do, if every moment of my life can I be ourselves, unapologetically, just be myself. It's the simplest way in some ways. But the social conditioning is what makes it harder for us. And that's what we have to keep constantly reminding ourselves, to be ourselves, to really not play a role in that moment, to be not be a parent or a child or a teacher or a student or an employee or a boss, nothing, no roles to play, or a spouse or a partner, but just be yourself in that moment. That's the state of yoga, and that's what we want to be. That's the aspiration. All that we do is towards that. And that can be done in a single moment. And what that looks like, sometimes we think that looks like this, right? This we understand. Being in yoga, we are thriving, we are flourishing. This is a state of yoga that we are in. And that's what state of yoga will be. That's how oftentimes it's depicted, that it's a very nice, pleasant place where there is lots of joy, tranquility, great. But to me, this is also a state of yoga. This is a tree expressing itself in the environment that it is in. This is also yoga. Right? There are moments when we are sad. That's so expressing our sadness, being sad, allowing ourselves to be sad, allowing ourselves to be angry when we are angry is also being in yoga. It's not pretending to not be angry when we are not. It's not putting a fake smile when we are sad, actually. It's allowing that because the external changes, the season changes. It's about who I am in that moment. What is my reality? What is my truth in that moment? For somebody else, it might be something else. It's my experience of life in that moment. That's what makes it complete. That's what makes it yogic. When I am with myself, aligned with myself, my body, my mind, if I am feeling sad, I allow my body to be that way, to be sad. I'm not resisting that sadness. If I am happy, allow it to be happy. So to me, this state of yoga, this being in yoga is not some beautiful, perfect, happy thing by some social standard. That's not the state of yoga. The state of yoga or being in yoga is being comfortable with who I am in the here and now, in this moment, how I want to. And that's okay. It's being unapologetically myself, totally true to myself, to be swasth, to be sthit in myself. That to me is the state of yoga. To be completely in the here and now. And we can try a very simple thing to experience this a little bit, maybe just a few minutes of a simple exercise. And I would request all to just, if you're on your chair, again, sit comfortably, allow your feet to be comfortably flat as much as possible in the footwear that you're wearing or directly on the floor. If the chair is too high for you, see if you can place something like a cushion or a pillow underneath it so that your feet are comfortably flat. And allow yourself to settle down in the chair, your back to be supported in the chair. Allow your entire weight to be taken by the chair and the floor. Feeling the sensations in the sole of your feet. How that feels, the entire soul. Taking your awareness there. Feeling the support of the chair on your back. Just relaxing your shoulders. Bringing your attention to your breath, to your nostrils. Noticing the flow of the air through your nostrils. Letting the air going in and slowly going out. Keeping your entire awareness at the nostrils. Being aware of the inhale and exhale. Slowly bringing your attention back to the support of the chair. Your back is supported. Feeling your feet on the ground. Whenever you feel complete, gently opening your eyes. Slowly and coming back to the room. Because of time, we did it for just a minute. But this attention to your breath is something you can do for as long as it feels comfortable. And that's something which will bring you instantaneously to your self, to the moment. So I'll take a pause here and see if there's any questions or comments on this, on what the state of yoga is. That yoga, the state of yoga is not just some flowering, happy place by external standard, but it's also acknowledging the pain, the sadness within us, and experiencing that when that's our truth. There is no suppression in yoga. We don't suppress our emotions. We allow them. We accept them. Completely accept every part of ourselves. And only when we do that, we are able to be established in ourselves. And that is being in yoga. That's the state of yoga, to be swasth. Then health is a natural outcome. Health happens. Just leaving the space open, anyone can unmute and share a question or comment or type in chat. Yes, Deepak.
My question is that this there is something called a mat, electronic mat or something. It is called a earthing mat. So I have been told by the teachers in Swasth Yoga that you should buy that. So when you are doing this grounding, like right now, my feet are in the ground. But what is the scientific explanation? If it is good, then I will have it. And in Amazon, of course, there are so many kinds. It's very difficult to find which is the appropriate. So any scientific explanation for a yoga mat?
Yeah, so this is not a yoga mat that you're talking of. It's earthing mat.
Earthing mat, sorry.
Yeah. So recently, actually, part of the India Yoga Association celebration, I did pre-record and share a video on the scientific explanation of that, exactly that, and the clinical trials. So we'll share that link of that video for you.
Okay. But you think it is useful?
Yes, I have it right now under my feet as well.
अच्छा, okay. ठीक है, तो अच्छी बात है. You have answered my question. That yes, definitely it is of some use, definitely.
Yes.
It is called earthing mat. No?
Yes, grounding mat. I will share the link also with you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts on this state of yoga, of being swasth, of being established in yourself? So again, keeping this in mind as you are doing the yoga practice, the yoga asana, any practice, pranayam, meditation, this is where you want to be, where you are able to be yourself completely. To be me. That's the objective. Whatever we do, not losing sight of that as we do whatever we do.
That's true. Yes.
Yes, Anjali?
Okay, hi Sandeep, how are you?
Good.
Sandeep, I wanted to know about this being yourself in social, like you're saying, even socially as a mother, wife, and all. I don't know how that works because you cannot be yourself then. I mean, it's very challenging. So, how to, because it's very, I find it really difficult. So, how do I be myself?
Correct. So two things you said. It is difficult, yes. I cannot be, that's not true. It is difficult, yes. So start with that. Saying I can be, it is difficult. That's the first acknowledgement. It's not I cannot be. Because if you start saying I cannot be, then you can never be. So we start with saying it is difficult. There is no doubt. It is difficult. There is years of conditioning that we have to work with. But once we take that set that intention, that no, I will want to be myself. It is difficult. It may not happen every time, but it will start. Once you start that process, maybe 1 out of 10 times you are initially. And that's okay. That's progress. Because now you know you can be, right? And then slowly, as you work with your other yogic processes, like which we'll discuss now, we'll get to the process of yoga. It will start getting easier. That 1 will become 2, will become 3 slowly.
Okay.
It's a process. It takes time, but you start with saying, I want to be. And
Yeah.
I can be. It is difficult, but I can be. And there are many difficult things. I'm sure all of you, each one of you has done so many difficult things in life. I can't even imagine. I don't have children. I haven't raised children. People who have raised children, I know how difficult a job that is. And you have done that, many of you, right? So you can
Yeah.
do difficult things. It's just to acknowledge that it is difficult, but we want to do it. I want to do it. That's the starting point.
Yes, actually, that's right. So please show us the way to do it.
Yes, so we'll start. Let's look at some of the processes, and then we'll come back to more questions on what are ways. And that's where the process of yoga becomes very important, right? And that's what we know as doing yoga, right? So that's the doing part, where we are doing something actively. But it's important to know where we want to get to. Whenever we start a journey, it's very important to know what the destination is, and that's the state of yoga. So doing yoga, as we saw in that statement of Vivekananda ji, that there are 4 broad streams he's talked about. But it's very important to know, before we talk of those 4 streams, that they all lead to the same goal of the state of being yoga. It's like a river or tributaries of a river which are joining into the same river, or different rivers joining the same sea. They're headed to the same destination. So the question, which is better, is a redundant question. It's actually quite a distracting question oftentimes, I think. That's not even a valid question. It's about what is relevant for me. Where am I today? So which tributary or which river will take me to my destination? And for somebody else, it might be a different river or a different tributary, because they are in a different place. And that is valid for them. Today, it might be this tributary which is good for me, but tomorrow it might be different, because it will lead me to some place where something else might. Right? So it's very important to not ask this question ever, which is the best path, which is better, which is worse. It's just about what works for me today. And tomorrow it might be different, or it might remain the same. It doesn't have to be different, but it may be different, and that's also okay. So it's like a journey. We take the path, we take the road which is right now most suitable, most beneficial to us. Right? And what are those 4 paths? Those 4 paths, as he said, is through philosophy, which is known as Gyan Yoga, through psychic control, which is known as Raj Yoga, through worship, which is known as Bhakti Yoga, and through work, which is known as Karam Yoga. These are the 4 different paths. Each one of them is, of course, a detailed topic in itself. I won't be able to cover all 4 of them or any of them in any meaningful way today. But what I wanted to highlight, that each one of these are valid paths in themselves, and share with you just the essence, possibly some very basic essence of each path. But before I get to that, I want to highlight that, for example, what we know today as yoga, which is the yoga asanas, the pranayam, meditation, those are techniques that fall under this branch, which is the Raj Yoga branch, the branch of psychic control, or mind controlling our thoughts, working with our thoughts. So that's only in one of the slivers. There is so much more that we can do, which is also yoga. It's a process of yoga, and that can take us towards this destination. And what works for whom is very different. And it's very important to make the choice for us, for ourselves. Now let me give you some sense of the essence of each of these paths. Now we'll look at each one of them one by one. And for each one of them, there will be 2 components here. So you see peace and experience. So the essence of Gyan Yoga internally is peace. according to me. It's the internal deep desire for peace. And it often shows up actually in the opposite of it. So when we don't feel peaceful, we feel angry. So it often shows up as anger in our life. But what that anger is driven by is a deep desire for peace inside. And when that desire is there, when we anchor ourselves in that desire for peace, then we work with the experiences of life. So this is the internal. Peace is the internal nature, and experiences is the external, outside. We work with understanding the experiences of our life. We work with learning from the experiences of our life. That's what Gyan Yoga is about. Gyan Yoga is not a path of where we read scriptures only. We read the books, we read literature, but we actually learn from experiences of life. So the word Gyan or knowledge actually literally means what we know through experience and not through reading only. It's through experiential knowledge, which all of you have so much of. But what we learn through experience, that is Gyan. That is the real Gyan. And working with that towards knowing ourselves is the path of Gyan Yoga. Towards peace, towards knowing ourselves. Raj Yoga is the path of silence. It's working silence of our thoughts, the silence of our mind, where our anchor is silence. And it gets manifested as a very, the opposite of it, which is a very active mind, too many thoughts going on. So we use these processes of Raj Yoga like asana, pranayam, meditation, etc. to quieten that, to quieten our mind. And that's why a big part of the asana is actually looking at how we bring our mind to our body. How do we integrate that? That quietens the chatter in our mind. That's the path of Raj Yoga, which is anchored in silence. And externally, we work with our thoughts. The path of bhakti is about love. Love which is without any fear. Love which is without any expectation, without any transaction. Bhakti is often, again, misunderstood as the path of doing a lot of rituals. But the rituals are to express our love for the divine, for whoever or whatever is our deity, our God. Any religion, any deity, whatever we want to worship, whatever we do to worship, the purpose is to express our love, our unconditional love for that entity. That is the path of bhakti. And as we do that, as we cultivate that kind of love, unconditional love for whoever, it could be Christ, Allah, Krishna, Ram, Shiv, Hanuman. It could be for a concept like truth, for compassion, for whatever we want to develop that kind of unconditional devotion, commitment, love for. That is bhakti. And to express that love, we do some rituals. That ritual could be in the form of lighting a candle. It could be in the form of lighting a diya. It could be in the form of having a conversation. It could be in the form of reading about it, getting to know like a friend, right? It's about building a relationship with that entity, with whatever we want to express our love. It could be chanting something, it could be reading, it could be anything. It's just how we develop a relationship, right? How do we do it, right? As a friend, as a lover, as a parent, as a child, in whatever form we want to create that relationship. That is the path of bhakti. That is what really bhakti yoga is about, to express our love. So we can cultivate that unconditional love within us. And last but not the least is the path of Karam Yoga, which is about working with our actions, with freedom. Freedom from attachment to the results. It's not that we don't desire results. In Karam Yoga, we desire results. We want a certain result, but we are not attached to it. Which means if some other outcome comes, we accept that also wholeheartedly. Just like we would accept success, we accept failure also. Whatever the outcome, we do our action. Maybe we have an expected result, and that's completely good. Okay, fine, that's very natural. But whatever result comes, we accept that. So we are free from the attachment. Freedom is the essence of Karam Yoga. And externally, we work with our actions. So these words, the first row about internal anchors, whether it's peace, silence, love, or freedom. And the external, what we work with, whether our experiences of life, our thoughts, our emotions, or our actions. Each one of us has a preference for one of these. Right? If you reflect for a moment, and I'll leave that to you, which is your preference? What do you relate with more easily? Right? Do emotions come naturally to you? For some, they come very naturally. For some, they don't. For some, thoughts happen naturally. For some, they are more doers. They act very naturally. Some become very reflective about their experiences in life. So whatever comes for you naturally, choose that process first to go deeper in. That would be my suggestion, because trying to do everything may not work, and you don't have to do everything. It's about picking that one tool that works for you, whatever that tool is. That works for you. I'll take a pause here. I'm keeping the slide. If there are questions as you look at it, as you reflect on what may work for me, and if there are any questions, comments, you can unmute and share or ask. Yeah, or type it on chat. Okay. Thank you, Annapurniji. So this is saying there is so much that can be done around this. Health happens naturally. And this is where I want to share the example of my mother. 15 years ago, she was diagnosed with arthritis, and doctors told both knee replacement for her knees. And then that's when she got introduced to yoga. We said, let's try that. We started with yoga therapy, and then one thing led to other, because that time the need was of yoga therapy. There was so much pain in the knees that nothing else really came around. Nothing else mattered at that point. So then started with yoga therapy, then took the other process, then looked at bhakti, which is what was her sort of calling. So she started looking at that, and I think now for many years she started sitting cross-legged. No surgery was required. The knee got healed. She's sitting cross-legged in her position comfortably for many times. Earlier, she couldn't even climb a single stair or do cycling. Now she does cycling, walk, and climb a few floors as well. So this all happens it takes time. It just doesn't happen overnight, because all the problems also didn't happen overnight. They slowly added up. But if we work with acceptance of our full self, work with connection with our full self, then these things start happening. Just the process, the consistency of it starts bringing differences. Health will happen. Physical health then starts happening on. But it's just to know what the purpose is. Where are we headed with that? Yeah. So if there are no questions, before we end the talk, I want to suggest a small activity which is linked with this Sthit Pragya, which we talked about earlier. So I know we are out of time. I just want to remind this that we have covered this, right? Which is the first part. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within. This is the state of you, right? What we saw, that the divinity within us gets manifested when we are in this state of you, and that can happen in every moment that we choose to be ourselves fully, to be established in ourselves. And the process has these two components, the external and the internal, like we saw in each one of those processes of work, Karam Yoga, worship, Bhakti Yoga, psychic control, Raj Yoga, or philosophy, Gyan Yoga. All of these paths are open, and he very clearly says it's by one or more, all of these. You don't have to stick to any one, but we can also choose to be just with one. And this can change. It's not like aaj jo decide kara zindagi, but it's not one path which is static. It's very dynamic. We are dynamic beings. What we were 1 year ago, we are not today. What we were 1 week ago, we are not today. Our beliefs change, our system changes. So our processes, what tools we use, should also evolve. And that to me is the essence of yoga. Now, to apply it in daily life, this is what I suggest. And this comes from this shloka of Bhagavad Gita on Sthit Pragya. So this is when Arjun asks Krishna in the second chapter that, who is this? What does this Sthit Pragya look like? What is this state of yoga that you talk about? What is this state of yoga? So this is how Krishna describes one of the properties of somebody who's Sthit Pragya is what? Atmani ev atmana tushtah. Sthit pragya tada uchyate. So somebody who honors this, which is Atmani ev atmana tushtah. What does this phrase mean? It's a very powerful phrase. It means when one is fulfilled in the self, Atmani, only, eva, only by the self. When one is satisfied, tushtah, santushtah. That means one is satisfied, content, joyful with oneself, only by oneself. Don't need anything else, anybody else. That is the state of being sthit pragya. That is the state of being swasth. When we are content in ourselves, by ourselves fully. That is sthit pragya, one of the properties. Yeah. And we will use this to develop a very simple activity for each one of us. So even at least 5 minutes in the day, we can be sthit pragya. We'll start with that. And this is the suggestion. This is what we oftentimes give others this suggestion, saying, can we take 5 minutes for yourself? See if you can do it at the start of the day. And what do? Pick an activity that you can do with joy, with contentment, with satisfaction, with fulfillment. Yeah. 5 minutes. And this fulfillment, joy is independent of the outcome. Whether you do it well, do it not, you will be still joyful. Pick something, some activity, and do this. Try and do this in the spirit of Atmani Ev Atmana Tushta, means with your time. It's only you. There is nobody else. It's an active expression of what? Something doing actively with your body, engaging your mind in doing it. Not just passively like reading or listening to something, meditation, not that. Something very active, which engages your body. Ideally not with any other person. It could be, these are some examples that we have suggested or we've seen people choose, like drawing, coloring, painting, singing, dancing, gardening. Something that you do joyfully, that while doing you are joyful, you are content. So I'll give a few moments for everyone to choose something. And trust me, when you start with this 5 minutes, this 5 minutes expands very quickly. This 5 is minimum. Just take out 5 minutes. This is like a 5-minute challenge, if you may. Every day, just 5 minutes. I'm sure in our busy schedules, we can take out 5 minutes. Something for ourselves that we are not dependent on anybody, but I'll do for myself. Yes, Nidhi, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to know any particular reason why meditation is not kind of included in here?
Because meditation is not necessarily always satisfying.
Okay.
It's not done with satisfaction. It's a tool to get there, but it's not usually that way, right? As we saw even in our workshop, that sometimes it goes this way, sometimes it goes this way. This is to ensure that certainty. And meditation also, we are not oftentimes using our body fully actively. It's just sitting, right? It's getting our mind function.
So
So this is
going
about,
out for a walk, for
yes,
example, that
walk
will
is
count.
good. Yes, walk if you do joyfully is good. But doing it joyfully, not as a chore, saying, I'm enjoying the walk.
But listening to music while walking, that's okay.
I would avoid that. If that's the only way, that's okay.
Okay.
Because again, music is an external aid. See if you can find the joy within you, entirely within you. Source it from yourself within. That's the full spirit of Atmani Ev Atmana Tushta. Initially, sure, if you need that aid, it's okay. It's still a starting point. I would say, please do it. Better than not doing it. If music helps you, please go ahead.
Right.
While
Thank
walking is good, definitely, yeah. Sometimes we need people also. We do initially, again, that's okay. But see if you can get to a place where you can be joyful with entirely just with yourself. That's the purpose. And coloring, I have found I started this. I am not at all a good drawer or whatever. I used to hardly like pass in my school, really bad at drawing. But this is what I took up, and it just, trust me, it transformed me in that I did this for about a year. Every day I would just go, I took crayons and just scribbled, did stuff just for the fun of it. And it was so healing for me. It was just amazing. Gardening is another tool. There we are interacting with plants, but it's again something which is there. It's there in the nature. Yes, Vishwanathji, you have your hand.
As what we were told, it was
Yes.
something to do with you utilize your faculty. It
Yes.
is not something which is use your available faculties and be with yourself. That is what are you hinting at?
Yes. Yes.
Like
And available faculty includes, I think, our body as well as our mind.
vision, sound,
Yes.
thoughts, walk,
Yes.
laughter, nature.
Yes. All
Right?
are, yes, all are excellent examples.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Sanjay.
I want to understand the significance of doing it in the morning, like why that 5 minutes in the morning? Why can't it be done any time of the day? And why does it have to be a
can be
fixed
done.
time also? Oh,
No, it can be any time of the day. The morning is suggested because we usually get caught up in the day and then that 5 minutes slips. So the suggestion is, that's a suggestion. I found it work that before you start anything, before you start engaging with the external, just take your 5 minutes for yourself. But yeah, it can be any time.
okay, thank you.
Yes. Any other thoughts? We are already over time, so just give me 5 more minutes to share how we can continue this journey. What if you do choose to? What all we do? So at Swasth Yoga Institute, this is our team of coaches. I am one of them, and there are more. This is one picture we took on our annual day, which didn't have all the coaches, but we have a team of coaches there to support all, and with the commitment of health and joy for all. We do different workshops, lot of diversity in this. So there are workshops which are around food and nutrition, around emotions. There's this around with working with nature, uh, because all of these different paths lead us to this state of yoga. There is this one workshop, being in yoga, 4 paths of yoga. This goes into detail of each path a little bit, like 2 sessions on each path. Then there are specific workshops on being in yoga psychology. This is Raj Yoga. Philosophy is Gyan Yoga. Go deeper. These two are very important workshops. The ones on Sanjeevani, Jagruti, body and mind. These are starting the next batch. I think Jagruti is starting, body is starting on 24th July. Mind is starting on 17th July. These are 2-week workshops. The body is for yoga therapy. If there is any ailment, any health problem, this is 2 weeks where you learn a yoga set which is designed for you, for your practice, for your ailment, for healing. that disease. And then there is regular classes, which I'll talk about after that. But this is their option as Jagruti body. And Jagruti mind is to again help or support in building a daily meditation practice, a regular meditation practice that you can do. So there is again 2 weeks where you work with a group and then you do that, learn that meditation, and then you can continue. Now, beyond these workshops, we also have personalized therapy. So again, any health problems, anything. We have worked with hypertension, diabetes, arthritis, IBS, depression, anxiety, bipolar, whatever health problems. You can do a one-on-one session with the coaches, join the group, and there is ongoing support. So both for our vyayam, which is what you learn in body, there is a daily 2 classes happen online which you can join. They happen in the morning and evening. Same with the meditation. There are 2 morning and evening sessions that happen regularly that you can continue with us. So there's a whole range of options. All of our services are without any fee. We don't charge any fee, but we work because we are a non-profit. We work on donations. We would request for a donation if you choose to give after or whenever you feel like. So that's, and last but not the least, this is how you can get in touch. I'm sure Chitra and the Silver Talkies team will share further details with you. So these
Yes,
are,
we will email these contact details to everyone who registered today.
so we'll close now since we are over time with a short prayer again. And this is a prayer where we wish everyone to be happy, free from illness, and not let anyone suffer. We'll do it in the same way like we started. I am around still. If there are more questions, I'll be here for as long as it's needed. So people who can stay back and ask questions or discuss with me. So let's close with our prayer. So sit comfortably with your feet on the ground, flat, your back supported. Relax your shoulders. You can repeat after me. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah. Sarve Santu Niramaya.
Sarve
Santu
Niramaya.
Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu.
Sarve
Bhadrani Pashyantu
Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhav Bhave.
Ma
Kaschit Dukha Bhav Bhave.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. Thank you. It was, I think I joined in late because I was on another call, but whatever little that I heard last half an hour, I think I'm always mesmerized when I hear you. And I just want to share with the group that I got introduced to Sandeep because I had actually attended their Sanjeevni Mind workshop, which was a 2-week workshop aimed at building the meditation practice. And that's how I got in touch with the group. And I was, Sandeep was the coach and Andy was coach. And I think for me, attending that workshop over 2 weeks kind of helped me really clarify my doubts about how meditation can be built as a practice and what meditation is not and what meditation is. I think that clarity for me was very important. And also it took, the explanation was very interesting in terms of how acceptable. So it took away a lot of doubts that I had, I could ask my questions very freely. So we were like, as Sandeep said, it was a group. There were about 5 of us who would attend the daily practice, the daily sessions. And Andy and Sandeep will take us through a few little bit tidbits information about meditation, and then we would do the practice together as well. So yeah, so if there are things like these which you want to do this, I would suggest that yeah, you could look at some of these programs which are offered by the institute, and you could definitely benefit from that. I still join Sandeep in the night sometimes to do the meditation
Yes.
together with him.
Yes, thank you. I'm
Thank you
around
so
if there
much.
are any questions, comments. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Sandeep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you, Sandeep. And we will email all of Sandeep's details. Do feel free to browse through the website and reach out to Sandeep if you have any questions. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I'll share the slides also with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share the slides so you can share them with them. I'll share that, and that has also the contact.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Nice day. We have learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
थैंक
Thank
यू
you,
आज
Sandeep.
आपने इंटरनेशनल डे ऑफ योगा बहुत सुंदर तरीके से कर दिया
Thank you. Thank you, Deepak.
ब्यूटीफुल वेरी ब्यूटीफुल
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Sandeep, thanks for adding meaning to today. And we hope everyone's able
Thank
to
you.
keep from what you're offering out there. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining.